Have you ever, when a conflict started with someone, you later on have these new little stories that happen in your head that you think, that would have been such a good comeback to something that somebody said. I wish I would have said this, or I wish I would have done that. Well, Didi brings a really interesting topic to the table that says you always have the next move, but it doesn't always have to be a slam.
Conflict management can be so stressful.
Yes.
But what if we adopted the phrase that says, when it comes to conflict management, it's always my move. How would that change the conflicts in our lives?
When it comes to conflict, it's always my move.
So a lot of times you hear about two people who got into a fight, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you hear somebody say, well, I'm not calling her. She needs to call me. Or a husband and a wife get into a fight. Well, I'm not going to do this until he does that. What if we changed it instead of forcing the ball in somebody else's court when there's a conflict, and we say, it's always my move.
Okay, I love that. So the word grace is actually what just popped up in my head, because to me that's what grace is. Mm-hmm. Is it doesn't matter how we got here. I have the ability to be forgiven and to be able to walk forward in this. That I don't have to stay paralyzed in here. So I do love that.
Grace is a great word to describe it. It also moves us forward. We don't want to stay in the conflict. If we do want to stay in the conflict, that's a whole nother situation.
That's right.
Which could be a possibility. You may look and say, no, I'm content to stay in this conflict. But truly, that's not where we want to be. It could be something with work. It could be that you think that your boss has given you too much to do in too short of a time. Like the task and the deadline don't meet up. But instead of going and having a conversation, you just stay in that internal conflict. Mm-hmm. Two spouses, your feelings have been hurt, and that other person needs to apologize, that other person needs to make it right, and you're just going to stay in the spot of conflict. But if you say, it's always my move, maybe you say, you open up the door to conversation. Maybe you see, I really overstepped my bounds here, or I spoke to somebody in a way that has created more conflict. That is part of this problem. I need to apologize. Or maybe you start to understand, I don't think this person fully understands what that comment meant to me, what this situation is doing to me. I don't think they understand it from my point of view.
Yeah, so if that way is rejected, then that would be that other conversation of why do you feel that you couldn't step into a situation where it's always your move? Like, what is it why do you want to stay in conflict? Mm-hmm. So if you're a listener and you're like, no, there's just sometimes that I don't have to make the next move. Mm-hmm. And so that would be, you'd be able to start asking your questions. Like, why do you want to stay there? And then going forward, if you take on that responsibility or that just thought process of it's my move next, then deciding what that you want that to be. Because it could just be more conflict, right? Like if I'm going to stick it to him one more way, or...
Oh, yeah. It's not in conflict resolution. It's always my move to beat somebody up. Like, no. That's not it.
Yeah. So going forward, and do you really want to see a resolution here? And do you think you need to be right? I think a lot of times now,
Yeah.
actually, this is true in marriage or in work situations.
Mm-hmm.
If you feel that you need to be right, then that often keeps you in the fight. At home, and you're back and forth with your spouse, and that one more thing has to be said, and that one more thing has to be said because there's something in there you that wants to feel justified. I need this person to know I'm right. How often does that keep us in conflict because we do that?
Pride and ego are like the gasoline to fanning that flame of conflict.
We actually, this morning, my husband made a comment, then I made a comment that I probably didn't need to make. And then he came back and made a comment about the fact that I made a comment, which overall, he was really doing the same thing I was doing by getting his one more in. We can do that forever.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
getting that last word in order to feel like we want to be right. So sometimes the next step is to actually not get the next word in, to stop yourself, to check yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always your move.
That would be my move. My move would be, I'm going to stop this from that ball from continuing to roll with words that hurt each other, with trying to prove a point.
Yeah, and so sometimes you brought up a good point too. Sometimes there are conflicts that will not be resolved. So what do you do at that point? You don't say, well, I'm a victim, I can't help it, this is how this person treats me. You always have a move. You can always make a decision that will keep you at soul peace, and you can always respond instead of react to how somebody comes at you. You always can set your boundaries. So maybe if there's a person that the conflict cannot be resolved, you may have to physically separate yourself from that person. That's your next move. Like your next move is always toward help. Your next move is always toward resolution if it can be. But you never want to fan the flames of conflict. You never want to plant those little seeds, those little you don't want to put those little irritants in there just to continue the conflict on, or to feel justified, or to just let them know how much it hurt you. Like, you always have a next move. Maybe it's going to be your next move is finding a new career. Maybe it's stepping away from that organization or that circle of friends. It could be any of those things, but you always step into life and healing.
And value. So you're finding value. When you pick the next move into picking a healthier place to go next, then you're showing value, whether you're showing value to that relationship between you and that other person, or you're just valuing your integrity in a situation by moving another direction. But when you continue in an area that conflict continues, and you need them to make the next move, you actually devalue the relationship, you're devaluing yourself. And so it's like you're just walking down to a gutter. You're either taking a stairway up or you're taking a stairway down. And when you don't do the thing that you're talking about, like saying the move is mine and I can make a move that is healthier, takes the whole situation to a healthier, you're actually stepping up.
Yes. And that takes discipline. It takes submitting your will and your anger, and you're laying down your ego, letting go of your pride for the betterment of the situation. And you have to separate the emotion from it. You have to separate your emotion from the events that caused them when you go to make your next move. Otherwise, it could be an emotional mess. And when you do that, when you make a calculated move toward resolution, it's logical, it's thought out, it's not emotional. Your mind is clear. Mm-hmm. You understand how to respond to whatever that reaction is.
Now, a lot of people are not used to making decisions without, like, the fact that emotion's pulled out of it.
Yes.
And it almost, if somebody's not familiar with that concept, to them that almost sounds like you aren't making, like they're not, you have to be fired up, or you have to be passionate, or you have to, in order to make big decisions. And you make better decisions. I mean, if you truly think about it, you make better decisions when you're clear-headed. And when you're angry or frustrated, physically frustrated, mm-hmm. You're emotional about things, then already you're not making clear decisions. So what you're saying is removing emotion from the decision puts you in a position to make a better decision.
Right. And one way to do that is to say, take a step back, take a few deep breaths, and understand there may be some emotion around it. Like, you may feel emotional around, you may feel angry, you may feel that. But you take a step back, you take a few deep breaths, and you say, what is the end goal here? Mm. What do I really want to come out of this? I just don't want to fight with my husband about this. I want us to be on the same page with this. I really just want my boss to give me additional resources to make this happen. Or I really would like for them to just give me an extra week or 2 weeks to accomplish this task. I really want to be at home more with my children instead of having to work overtime. Whenever you can identify what is the end goal,
mm-hmm. That's huge.
Then your conversation, your next move, drives to that end goal. Instead of staying in a place where, I can't believe he doesn't understand how overworked I am, how tired I am. I can't believe she is pushing me this hard to do that. Like, instead of that, all you're going to want to then do is get them to affirm your feelings and see where you're coming from. Well, they're going to be defensive. But if you say, this is my end goal, and then what would be my move to get me there? Were my feelings hurt? Yes. Was somebody ugly to me? Yes. Does it matter? No. I can be a bigger person than that. I can let go my hurt feelings because somebody was mad and said ugly things to me. Maybe it hurt. Yeah, but just letting them know how much I hurt without having an end goal of where I want to be, that's not going to benefit anybody. It's just going to keep that conflict going.
And for people that keep that front and foremost in their mind as they deal with things going forward, there's a lot of freedom in that. They're actually walking freer mm-hmm. because they don't burden themselves with the conflict that's not necessary.
People just want to know, I hear you, mm-hmm. and I'll fix that. I'll make it right. They want to hear it in business. They want to hear it in marriages, in that parent-child relationship. People want to be heard and know that we can work toward a resolution together. I think people want that.
Yeah. And then the relationship is valued in the end mm-hmm. because that's the approach that was taken.
But if you always wait on somebody else to make the next move, you're going to stay in a physical state of angst, even if you don't think you do. Your body's going to take the toll. Angst, anger will build up, bitterness will build up, and you'll start to hold a grudge. You're going to play scenarios over in your mind
You won't be able to sleep at night.
You won't be able to sleep at night. And you'll play these scenarios of, well, I should have said da-da-da-da-da. You know how, like, you have that replay of, oh, this would have been a good comeback to that.
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. That's terrible
It
for your
is.
psyche and for your emotional health and your mental health. And then when you see that person, you have a physical reaction in your body.
Mm-hmm.
And those hormones take a toll over time. And if you can walk free of that, what a gift. Life changes. Your mindset changes.
Yeah. So the next move is mine.
Yeah. Yes. In a conflict, I always have the next move. And when you adopt that, you're never a victim. Even if that next move means separating from that person or that situation or organization. You do it out of love, and you do it respectfully and tactfully. And sometimes it's amazing how just that separation or having that conversation, and I don't mean like necessarily separating from your husband, but like if somebody's taking it that way, that's not necessarily what I'm saying. But distancing yourself from that situation. From the conflict, yes. Sometimes that alone is enough to have somebody say, oh, wait, she's not blaming me. I don't need to be defensive over this. I wonder, what is she talking about? Like, it opens up their mind to being more willing to see the conflict differently and to have a conversation with you. Boundaries are incredibly important when it comes to conflict. You can always set boundaries. When we have conflicts in life, it can just drain your energy. And sometimes you don't know how to resolve them. Sometimes it seems like an impossible situation. That's what Nicole and I are here for. Give us a call. Reach out to us. Go to www.liveyourdesign.life to get our contact information. Drop us a message and let us know how we can assist you in this, because that's what we're here for. We have resolved conflicts in our lives, in our relationships, and we can both tell you that living without conflict is living with freedom.